It's never easy to admit the truth when the truth is ugly. For years, I carried a secret so heavy, so dangerous, that it poisoned every part of my life. My name is Rachel. I'm 38 years old, and I did the unthinkable. I fell in love with my husband's brother. This is my confession. When I first met Daniel, I wasn't looking for love. I was 25, freshly graduated from college, working as a teacher's assistant. My roommate at the time was dating this tall, charismatic guy who insisted on introducing me to his best friend. That best friend turned out to be Michael, the man who would eventually become my husband. Michael was sweet, dependable, the kind of man you could imagine building a future with. He didn't sweep me off my feet with grand gestures, but he made me feel safe. He listened, he made me laugh. And when he proposed 2 years later, I said yes without hesitation. It wasn't until our engagement party that I truly noticed his brother, Daniel. Daniel was the opposite of Michael. Where Michael was calm and steady, Daniel was bold and magnetic. He walked into a room and everyone noticed. He cracked jokes, charmed the waitstaff, and when his eyes met mine across the crowded room, my stomach twisted in a way I didn't understand. I told myself it was nerves, excitement, nothing more, but I was wrong. Years passed. Michael and I built a life together. We bought a house, had 2 children, hosted Sunday dinners. Daniel was always around, family birthdays, barbecues, holidays. Every time I saw him, I felt a tug deep inside me. I tried to bury it, tried to convince myself it was harmless, just a silly crush, except it didn't fade. One Thanksgiving, when Michael stepped outside to help his father with the grill, Daniel lingered in the kitchen while I washed dishes. He leaned against the counter watching me. "You know," he said, his voice low, "my brother is lucky, not just because of the kids, but because of you." I laughed nervously, wiping my hands on a towel. "Don't be ridiculous." But he didn't laugh. He just looked at me with those piercing eyes and said, "I mean it." For days after, I replayed that moment. His tone, his expression. Did he mean it as a brotherly compliment? Or something more? That was the start of my undoing. Daniel and I never crossed any physical boundaries, not then, but we started exchanging looks, lingering conversations, texts that began innocently. "How are the kids? Did you see the game?" And slowly became something else. Inside jokes, late-night messages, a dangerous closeness. Michael trusted us both completely. He had no reason not to, and that made the guilt unbearable. One summer evening, while Michael took the kids to the park, Daniel came by to drop off some tools. I invited him in. We sat on the couch side by side, the air heavy with unspoken tension. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers barely grazing my skin. My breath caught. For a split second, I almost let him kiss me, but I pulled away. "We can't," I whispered. He clenched his jaw, nodded, and left without another word. That should have been the end, but instead, it made everything worse. The distance between us only fueled the longing. I found myself comparing Michael to his brother. His steady reliability suddenly felt dull compared to Daniel Isfire. I hated myself for it. And then came the night I broke. Michael and I had been arguing for weeks about finances, about my long work hours, about his constant late nights at the office. One night, after the kids were asleep, we exploded. Words flew, sharp and cruel. I accused him of not caring. He accused me of being ungrateful. He slammed the door and left. I sat on the kitchen floor sobbing, and somehow, without even thinking, I called Daniel. He came within 20 minutes, no questions asked. He just sat beside me, let me cry into his shoulder. His arms felt like home and danger all at once. I wanted him. God help me, I wanted him. I didn't kiss him that night, but my heart did. The guilt ate me alive. For months, I carried this storm inside me, pretending everything was normal, smiling at my husband, helping with homework, hosting dinners. But inside, I was fractured. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. It happened on a rainy Sunday evening. Michael was reading in the living room, the kids playing upstairs. I sat across from him, staring at the man I once loved without question, the father of my children, the partner I had vowed to honor. My throat tightened, my hands shook. "I need to tell you something," I said. He lowered his book, eyebrows furrowing. "What is it?" And then, like ripping off a bandage, I blurted it out. "I'm in love with your brother." The silence that followed was suffocating. His face went pale, his lips parted, but no words came. "What?" he whispered, as if he hadn't heard me. Tears streamed down my face. "I never meant for it to happen. I didn't plan it. But it's the truth. I feel things for him I shouldn't feel." Michael stood, pacing the room, his hands shaking. "Are you sleeping with him?" His voice cracked, filled with rage and desperation. "No," I cried. "I swear, I haven't. We haven't. But I think about him. I can't stop." He pressed his fists against his temples, breathing heavily. "You're telling me, the mother of my children, my wife of 12 years, that you love my brother?" My sobs were the only answer. The weeks after my confession were hell. Michael moved into the guest room. He barely spoke to me except about the kids. He avoided family gatherings, refused to see Daniel. My children sensed the tension, asking why Daddy didn't smile anymore. Eventually, Michael confronted Daniel. I wasn't there, but I heard the aftermath. Shouted words, a slammed door, years of brotherhood shattered. Daniel stopped coming around. He cut contact with me completely. No calls, no texts. It was like he vanished, and I was left in the ruins of my own making. I lost my marriage. Michael filed for separation, and who could blame him? I lost my brother-in-law, the man I loved but never had. I lost my family's trust, my children's sense of security. But most of all, I lost myself. I don't share this story to justify what I did. There is no justification. Loving someone you're not supposed to love can destroy lives, and it destroyed mine. What I learned is this: desire doesn't care about right or wrong. It sneaks in, grows roots, and takes over before you realize the damage. But acting on it, or even confessing it, has consequences you can't undo. Michael once told me that trust is like glass. Once shattered, it may be pieced back together, but the cracks will always show. Our marriage never recovered. Our family dinners turned into awkward exchanges. Holidays became divided. My children, now teenagers, still struggle to understand why their parents live in separate houses. And Daniel? He married someone else, moved to another city. He never spoke to me again. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what might have been if I'd kept my secret, if I had buried it deep and let it rot inside me instead of detonating my world. But then I remember, I was suffocating in the lie, and maybe the truth destroyed everything, but at least it was honest. This is my confession. I fell in love with my husband's brother, and it cost me everything.